In a world where the paranormal meets the preposterous, where ghostly whispers echo through the abandoned arcades, and every creaky floorboard might just be a clue, two bravish souls dare to investigate the mysteries no one else will touch.
Boo-Foons, mystery investigators.
Hey there, mystery lovers and mischief makers. I'm Steve.
And I'm Dan, together with the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators, your guides through the weird, the wild, and the wonderfully unexplained.
Each week, we dive headfirst into bizarre tales, haunted happenings, and conspiracy theories so strange they'll make your nan's ghost stories sound like bedtime lullabies.
We're talking cursed vacuum cleaners, psychic pigeons, haunted theme parks, and maybe, just maybe, a few real clues along the way.
So grab your flashlights, your EMF detectors, and maybe a snack, because things are about to get weird.
This is the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators, where the only thing scarier than the truth is how much fun we're having finding it. Welcome to the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators. I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve.
You know, I was so tempted then to say that I was Steve, just to really throw everything off.
Yeah. Well, you throw me anyway by doing that. You stopped in the middle.
We're here for another episode of Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators.
I'm not sure I am here now for this. Am I here for something else? I don't know what I'm doing now. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, well, there we go. A nice comedic start there for this episode.
Confused. Yeah. You will be.
Would you like me to start that again?
No. You carry on. I think you've done a fine job of starting today's podcast, because I got a feeling it's going to just carry on. This is how it's going to be. Let's carry on.
Yeah. So today we're going to a place which is quite special for me with regards to ghosts, and the theme of this podcast is Great Yarmouth.
I'm a big fan of Great Yarmouth. I went there with my friend. We went on holiday when we were just mere teenagers and had a really good time.
Yes.
Saw Cobra at the cinema. That was awesome.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Amongst other things. It was a good holiday. So yes, Great Yarmouth is, and I went there a few weeks ago with the wife, and we had a fantastic time. It was brilliant. A proper seaside town, and we don't have many of them left. So please visit Great Yarmouth.
Yeah, well, I spent many a childhood holiday down in the Great Yarmouth area. And the reason why it's special to me and links in quite nicely with this podcast is it was on a holiday in Great Yarmouth when I went on a ghost walk, and it really got me interested in the unknown and the ghosts and spookiness. So it's nice that we're doing an episode about Great Yarmouth today, because that's where my love of ghosts started many years ago. Yeah. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that.
Yeah, no, I was just visualizing the ghost walk. When you say ghost walk, it's like, I just imagine you put a sheet on and just walk around town. But then again, you can be careful again doing that, because people get the wrong idea. But just, yeah, especially if you just try to walk through someone's walls. So, well, you went to a guided ghost tour. Is that what you meant?
Yes, a guided ghost tour.
Awesome.
And funny you say about dressing up. One of the sort of family jokes to this day involves my youngest brother, where at one point they took us into this area and told us a story which we might cover in a later episode, about the devil in a certain area. And apparently, if you hear the fiddle playing... Sorry.
So when you said certain area, do you mean like in a location or a part of the body? When you start fiddling that part, the devil made me do it. I was fiddling that location.
Yeah. No, a very specific location within Great Yarmouth. Okay. And apparently, if you hear the fiddle playing, That's the devil, and you're a fool, and only fools can hear it. And my brother kept going on about the fact that he could hear it, so we wound him up saying, no, couldn't hear it. And they'd actually, the people that did the ghost tour were actually got somebody to come and play the fiddle. So obviously we all heard it, but the fact that he kept going, I could hear it, meant that for the whole of the holiday, we just kept going, no, we couldn't hear it. You must be a fool then. And to this day, we remind him that he's a fool because he could hear the fiddle. Yeah. Anyway,
I always like a good story about a good fiddle. A good mysterious fiddle that only one person can experience.
Yes.
That's Great Yarmouth for you.
Yeah. So join the Boo-Foons OnlyFans.
For your own fiddling tales.
That's a scary thought, isn't it?
That is a scary thought, yeah.
Anyway, the story that we're covering today is about the Star Hotel in Great Yarmouth, which the Star Hotel itself has a bit of an interesting history because Admiral Lord Nelson stayed there several times. There was a room always permanently reserved for him within the Star Hotel. So when he was on land and not at sea, he stayed there, and they called it the Nelson Room. And the interesting thing about it is you can actually visit the Nelson Room to this day. However, you need to go to New York City because somebody who was obsessed with Nelson, when they knew about the hotel potentially closing down, actually took all the fixtures and fittings from the room and they've rebuilt it in the Metropolitan Museum in New York City.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yes, there's an interesting fact, and another interesting bit of history is the Star Hotel was in 1848. A famous author known as Charles Dickens actually visited and stayed in the Star Hotel, and at the time he was writing David Copperfield, and it is said that the Star, where David and Steerforth stay within the book, actually gets its name from the Star Hotel because he was staying there at the time of writing David Copperfield.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So that's sort of just a couple of interesting facts about two famous people of British history staying within this hotel.
And they obviously love Great Yarmouth too.
They must have loved Nelson was, a Norfolk man, and he did like Great Yarmouth, and I visited the pub that he apparently drank in, and there's actually an oil painting of Nelson returning from battle at sea, and there's a painting where you can see this pub in the background. It was painted at the era as well, and I've actually visited that pub. So Nelson had quite a lot of links to Great Yarmouth, and for Charles Dickens to be there as well. But they're two interesting facts before we ever get into the story of the hotel.
Okay, can you confirm this fact about this? Were there smuggling tunnels underneath the Star Hotel? Did you find anything out about that?
Well, interesting story. The smuggling routes are underneath the current Star Hotel building, not the original.
Oh, okay.
And the story that we're talking about today actually talks about the original building.
Excellent. Okay, cool. I just love smugglers and smugglers' tales, and again, it seems to be a nice theme that always seems to pop up when you look around at anything these days. Smugglers seem to be a big thing.
Yes,
because I remember, yeah. I was just going to say something else, but I can't say that because it involved Chewbacca, and of course another famous smuggler.
Yes.
But we don't not knowing where we're going to put this one. Know where we're going to stick Chewbacca in there.
Well, so let's get into the story of the Star Hotel.
Yes.
Yarmouth.
Let me stop distracting you because you're never going to talk about it if I keep talking about nothing in particular. I'm not going to interrupt you every time you breathe. No, sorry, Dad. You carry on. I'll shut up.
Well, the original building of the Star Hotel was built in the 1600s. Now they can't actually specifically say which year it specifically opened, just the 1600s. Now the hotel itself was around at the time of the English Civil War. And there's a story of the English Civil War that they were using one of the rooms as a prison. And what they had done is the Cavaliers had got a Roundhead. Sorry, no, I've got that completely wrong. The Roundheads had captured a Cavalier, a head Cavalier, and the Cavalier was put in one of the hotel rooms, put on the bed, and a rather large Roundhead sat on the Cavalier to keep him in place until they could judge him and deal with him and punish him. So he was entrapped and imprisoned, this Cavalier, by a Roundhead sitting on top of him. And that was the English Civil War.
That was it. That's the English Civil War in a nutshell.
Yes.
That's the best description of the English Civil War I've ever heard. Yeah, the Cavalier, and we got a fat Roundhead to sit on him. The end. Then that was the English Civil War.
Yeah, and the Cavalier was their prisoner, and they would only let the Roundhead get off of the Cavalier once the Cavalier had provided the information that they needed. So that bit of that story of the English Civil War is important for the ghost story. Because
it's my favourite story now of all time. I love that. It's like just because if I'd have been a soldier, that's what they got me doing. They would have got me sitting on the prisoners to stop them getting away.
Well, here's the interesting story about this Roundhead, because several people who have stayed in a very specific room at the Star Hotel have reported waking up in the middle of the night, unable to feel their legs, unable to move out of the bed, because almost as if something is sitting on them or keeping them trapped on the bed, and they cannot move at all in the middle of the night. And some of the people have said that they can see the shape of a figure sitting on the bed, keeping them trapped on the bed. Now, these stories have been reported in the 1930s, throughout many people that stay, even as late as the 2000s. And that people have apparently stayed in this hotel, in this very specific room that was used to imprison a Cavalier. And every single person who has stayed there has said that they've either felt a strange presence within the room or have woken up in the middle of the night unable to physically move. And some people have described seeing somebody sitting on the bed. So, and people assume it is the ghost of this Roundhead keeping the prisoners or the people visiting the hotel in the bed.
So they have to pay their late departure fees to the hotel. If
yes.
you miss your checkout time, it's an extra £50.
Yeah, and they can't blame the Roundhead, apparently.
Nobody would believe them.
No.
I'll have to admit, I'm going to be up in Nottingham next week or the week after for work. I'm going to have to use that for getting up late. So
there's a Roundhead sitting on me.
There was some fat bloke sat on me. I couldn't get out. I couldn't leave on time. Sorry, I'm late for the office. Late for work.
However, here's an interesting thing for you. So, as I said, people have reported this ghost sitting on them as late as the 2000s. Now, this suggests that the ghost has moved because that was in the original building. The original building was knocked down in the 1940s because the actual current location of the Star Hotel is actually an old hotel called the Stonehouse, which was built in 1764. And the Star Hotel itself, so the original building that this Roundhead was in, was knocked down in the 1930s. And the current building was a hotel called the Stonehouse and took the name Star Hotel in the 1930s when the owners switched from the original building that needed to be demolished to the new building. So with the ghost of this Roundhead being seen in the 2000s, that means that the Roundhead ghost has moved from the original Star Hotel to the current Star Hotel, which is now a bit of a derelict building. But
so Is it possible they used fittings and fixtures from the original hotel? Because you were talking about the Nelson room. Did they move all the interior from the Nelson room to the new hotel, or was that sold off at that point in the 1930s? Did that go to America? So
I'm
had
unsure when the fittings moved, but I would assume it was around then. Yes.
so I was just thinking maybe they used fittings and fixtures and things that were around from the old hotel that was still good into the new hotel, into the new location. Because if you're setting up a new hotel on an existing building, you would want to use as much as you already had. If you knew the old one was going to be knocked down,
Well, the
you'd
building
recycle.
the building that they moved into was already a hotel called the Stonehouse, and that had been a hotel from 1881. It only became the Star Hotel in 1930 when the owners at the time of the Star Hotel moved into the hotel called the Stonehouse, which is now the Star Hotel. So I would assume if you've already got a hotel and you're moving into a hotel that's already a hotel, I would assume you'll just keep the fixtures and fittings that were there, and you wouldn't necessarily move anything from your old hotel to your new hotel, especially if it's already a hotel.
But they took the name, they changed the name. So
Yeah, they
maybe
changed the name.
changed the name to it. So maybe they did take other stuff. Maybe that was the same. Maybe the Star Hotel wording and even the star over the door was part of the original hotel.
Possibly.
So maybe there is something that's traveled with it. Maybe there was some things that traveled.
Yeah. But people have reported this ghost from the original building and the modern building, the current building, which were built 100 years between each other, because the original Star Hotel was the 1600s, whereas the current building was the 1700s.
Yeah. So still a nice old building.
Still a nice old building.
And that's the other thing. We don't often hear. Well, sometimes we hear, we see people see ghosts walking through where used to be doors, because things have changed. But we very rarely hear the building's been knocked down, built a brand new building, but I guess there are still stories of that, aren't there? There are still stories that a ghost stays in a location. So even though it's changed and there's now, you see half the ghost walking through because they're walking through a floor that didn't used to be there.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of thing. People do, yes.
But yeah, so it's quite interesting. It's not like it's moved massively, because the original Star Hotel was along the bit of road from where it now is. And, they were technically competing hotels, because you had the Star Hotel competing against the Stonehouse Hotel. And then when the Star Hotel closed down because it needed to be knocked down, they moved into the Stonehouse, rebranded it as the Star Hotel, and then the original Star Hotel was then demolished. That was around the 1930s. They moved from the Star Hotel to the Stonehouse Hotel, and then rebranded the Stonehouse to the Star Hotel. I suppose they rebranded it because of the story of Nelson and the story of Charles Dickens.
Yes. Good marketing, isn't it? It's got a history. Take it with you. But the other thing the interesting story about that story is, why would it be the fat bloke who's the ghost rather than the guy who got squashed? Because I bet you he had a worse experience.
Well, yes, because he was being kept prisoner by somebody sitting on him.
So why wasn't he the ghost? Why did people wake up and see there's a rather out of breath cavalier laying in bed with them? It's more likely that would be, they would turn over and see the ghost of a cavalier who's slightly annoyed and squashed, as opposed to the person who sat on them.
Yeah, that one is a bit bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because usually ghosts are people that have been tormented within their life.
That's it, the one who had the bad experience. And I would have said the bloke who'd been sat on would have had the worst experience.
Yes.
But a great story. I do like that.
Well, there is an interesting story. You said at the top of this, are there smuggler caves? Well, the current building, which used to be the Stonehouse, that's now the Star Hotel as of 1930, did have smuggler tunnels. And the smuggler tunnels went from the River Yar and the Docklands area underneath in the silty mud to the cellar of the Stonehouse, now the Star Hotel. And it is reported that there are several ghosts in the cellar of the current building, and the tunnels are still there. They've been sort of bricked off and everything for safety and health and safety reasons. However, it's been reported that when members of staff have gone into the cellar, they can hear the grunting and moving of items within these tunnels, and they've also had experiences of seeing strange figures within the cellar itself. All supposedly the smugglers who had dug the tunnels from the river to the cellar of the original pub.
I always think that's such a huge waste. I mean, it's fascinating. I would love, again, if I owned that property, which apparently last time it sold for £1,000. So it's like I probably could afford. I would open up the tunnels. I would see what was there.
Well, I would like to know, because knowing the bit of land that it's built on, it's very silty. So I actually wonder how much of the tunnels are actually still there. I would suspect a lot of it has collapsed by now.
You would have thought there'd be a lot of sinkholes in that case. Don't know
Good
how
point.
sinkholey Great Yarmouth High Street is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the tunnels, though, again, we're talking stone and tunnels and underground. Okay, you said it's silty, but I'm sure there must be stone there to keep it
The
keep it up,
stone.
keep it up. But to hear that, basements are creepy places anyway. Basements are always creepy places. And again, it's stuff we heard in our investigations so far. Is a lot of people see stuff in basements
Yes.
and hear things in basements. I love a good basement. Tried to buy a house with a basement, fell through unfortunately. Basement didn't, but the cell did. Um, I've always wanted a house with a basement. It would have been great. It was very short. I would have to have lost a good foot in height to really appreciate it, but I had plans. It was. I just want a haunted basement. That's all, and a haunted attic, and just a haunted house. To be honest.
That would be so cool.
Yeah. Oh man.
And then we could do a whole episode about you living in a haunted house.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I did live in a haunted house for a little while, but didn't see anything. But the only person who didn't see anything. Not that I got a closed mind or anything.
But
it's very disappointing. Very disappointed to stay in a haunted place and not hear or see anything. But who does? If there's this many ghosts, why is nobody ever reporting anything that they see these days?
Yeah, so with this story, if there were ghosts in the cellar and they can hear the grunting and moving of items within the tunnels that were all blocked off, and then also this ghost of the Roundhead. Now, it's a hotel in a seaside town. People are going to be there on holiday. They're probably going to have had a bit to drink whilst enjoying their evening entertainment. So is it that they've gone to get up out of bed and they can't move for a few moments because their body's just waking up while they go to the toilet,
Yep.
So have they actually experienced anything, or is it just the fact that they've enjoyed themselves a little bit too much in the evening, enjoying evening entertainment elsewhere?
That's right. Lots of grunting and moving around in the basement. It's definitely something you would do when you're on holiday. A few drinks, sneaking off.
And with it being an old building as well, they hear the grunting and moving of items. Now, if you're in the cellar in an old building, the flooring above you is probably going to be wooden.
Floorboards, yes.
So if it's a hotel, you're going to have a lot of people walking through the building, whether they're going to the restaurant area, the bar area, to the check-in desk, or even up to their rooms.
24/7, wouldn't it? 24/7. It's never going to stop. There's always going to be somebody there doing something.
Yeah, so you're going to hear people moving around naturally. So whether you're actually in the cellar, it's not necessarily the moving of old smuggled items and ghostly smugglers dragging things around. It's probably going to be people above you that are moving around the hotel.
Yeah, much more likely. So we can disregard that, because are there many sightings though, or experiences, any multiple experiences in the basement, in the cellar? Is it just loose stories?
It's loose stories from staff over the years. Now, it could be a big marketing ploy of, there are definitely ghosts here, and trying to feed into the Roundhead. Now, I do know that back when the hotel was open, because it is now closed, has been for a few years now, that if you rang up and booked and said that you wanted to stay in the haunted room, they would not put you in the haunted room, because they didn't want people to. Yeah, which says to me, if you're interested in ghosts and you've rang up and said, I want to stay in the haunted room, and the staff are saying, no, we're not going to place you in that room, that suggests to me that this story is more folklore of storytelling and people telling a story of there's definitely a ghost in there. Because, if people, yeah, you know what I mean?
Does it also add a little bit of credibility to it that they would say no? Because they could make a fortune if they said yes. Warren, but then if the ghost, if somebody proved something, then they, it could ruin their business if there was actually something happening in that room. I don't know, as a business owner, we're talking about how a lot of pubs, every pub says it's got a ghost, and because it's great for business. But hotel, again, if it's only good for business, if you're going to sell people, get people to go there. But if they're saying no rather than encouraging people, why would they say no to staying in the haunted room? Surely they would charge a premium, like a lot of hotels do. They will charge you a lot more money to stay in their famous haunted rooms.
Well, all it suggests to me is they're scared that people would stay in there, wake up in the middle of the night, not have any feeling of being trapped in their bed, not have anything to say about the ghost, and therefore they're then worried that people will then not want to go there because there's not a ghost that sits on you. Whereas if they don't tell you which room you're staying in and you then experience something weird, then it just adds to the story of this roundhead sitting on the bed.
I just think it's a really weird thing. I think it's a really weird thing because, as a business owner, I know that if I would want people to experience it, so I could charge that premium. That, if you suddenly had 10 people in a year saying, yes, I had somebody sat my chest in the middle of the night, I couldn't breathe. And suddenly you'd be a premium, you'd be a real destination location. You could up your prices. You could make, I noticed the hotel, like you said, is shut down now again. It's been derelict for a while. I think for the last 5 years, it's been derelict. That surely if it's haunted, really haunted, and they could prove it and say, so yes, stay in a haunted house. You proved, it's a ghost. That would still be open as a business. It would still be a hotel. And it would be a destination. But by saying no, you end up shutting down.
Yeah,
it's just weird that they didn't encourage people to go along with the stories and the legends.
Yes, because like you said, I would. And I don't know what order we're releasing these episodes, but when we visited the Jamaica Inn, it was, and if we've already released that episode, then you know a bit about our opinions and experience of the Jamaica Inn. If we haven't, then you've got that to enjoy.
Yes,
but that was very much.
We did visit the Jamaica Inn to actually experience it, so we actually went there. So Dan, yeah.
And it was all just marketing around, it's haunted, it's got loads of ghosts, we're very haunted, come and visit us. And that's why we went.
Yeah.
And then discovered.
And everybody there was talking about ghosts. Everybody was talking about ghosts. All the pictures were ghosts. People staying in the hotel, they're only staying there for one reason, ghosts. And they're making a killing out of it, I imagine.
They are. Well, when we were there were several people in there either drinking or eating or whatever. So it's clearly a destination pub of people wanting to experience a ghost of some kind because of all the stories.
And if the Star Hotel had played its cards right and actually used those legends and stories and actually encouraged people to stay in those rooms, and yes, come stay. I want to stay in the ghost room, the haunted room. Yes, of course you can. That's $250 a night. But the other rooms are $100 a night. Yeah, it's the ghost room.
Yeah. And that's
Sold
what
out.
Several hotels do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a sensible thing. If you've got a ghost, you milk it. Milk your ghost for all it's worth.
Yes.
I would if I owned one of the businesses. Honestly, if I bought an old pub, first thing I'd do is make up a ghost story. Because from what we've seen, these are the ones that survive. You have to give it a ghost story.
And you know what I would like to know with this whole hotel story? So the Metropolitan Museum in New York have the fixtures and fittings from the original hotel where this round-head ghost was originally seen in. Now, it'd be interesting to know if the Metropolitan Museum have had any weird ghostly feelings or vibes from the, fixtures and fittings that were moved over there.
Yeah. Because, those haunted objects are something we haven't spoken about yet, but there's, haunted objects are a thing.
Yes.
And that's why I was suggesting maybe some things were taken across from one hotel to the next. They would have carried this energy, whatever it was.
Yes.
Because I was looking here as well. Since it says here that the New Star Hotel was closed in 2020 after it's suffered an arson attack, and it says locals who walk past the derelict building claim to hear whispers from within, even though the site is sealed off, and some believe the fire may have awakened something dormant, perhaps tied to the building, its past, its history of seafaring guests and taverns and brawls. If those objects had been burnt, if they were a part of the hotel when it had suffered its arson attacks, maybe awake. I like the idea of something being awakened.
Yes, maybe it's the whole of the military from the English Civil War now coming out.
But of course, Great Yarmouth, I think, didn't it get hit by the plague really badly back in 1660, whatever it was, six. I don't know when it had. I think it's like nearly most of the population was killed by the plague.
It's got such a
like
fascinating
over 7,000 people, I think, were killed by the Black Death in Great Yarmouth. And I think there's pretty more than the people who live there now. I don't think there's that many people living there now. It's there's so much history there.
I'll admit it's a very interesting town when you start getting into it, and I know there are several stories of Great Yarmouth that maybe we'll explore in later episodes of the podcast.
But I know from the vibes I get from the place, I went last year, I think it was, and just the vibes I got was there was so much for a seaside town in the UK, which normally they're dead. There's nothing going on there. There was so much going on, and it felt alive, and it felt traditional. It felt like an old seaside town. There was so much going on. It was wonderful. I could believe that if there was anybody did die after visiting and having love, they would want to stay there. I can't.
Yes.
I'm surprised there aren't more ghosts. I'm sure there are more ghost stories there, but it's such a fascinating place. I've got a real soft spot for it.
It is.
And
with it being a traditional fishing town as well, if you dig deep there must be stories linked to the fishing community there, and the thing is with the fishing community having links to Scottish people going down, and that there must be loads of stories of the old and
passed from all over the country. But apparently, I was reading that they suspected even Charles Dickens' ghost was there, which is a bit weird because I'm sure he didn't die in Great Yarmouth. But apparently, in the room he stayed in, there was a shadowy figure of a Victorian gentleman. This is in the old Star Hotel. Yes, there was a Victorian gentleman. When people would go over and talk to him, he would just vanish. But of course, I'm sure from everybody was Victorian in Victorian England, so I don't know why. It just happened to be a Victorian gentleman who stayed in Charles Dickens' room, so it must be Dickens' ghost.
I know which ghost it is. It's not Dickens' ghost. It's Jacob Marley.
Now, did he have chains? Was he the one with chains?
He was the one with chains.
Yes, but people haven't reported chains.
Oh, that's a shame.
Maybe they were reported in the basement, in the cellar of the new hotel, where people would hear the grunting and moving things around. Maybe that was Jacob Marley polishing his chains.
Yes. There we go. We've debunked that one, and it wasn't. It was Jacob Marley.
So again, for me, this is a really sad one. The fact that the ghost stories that were on the old site haven't continued. So there's nothing to link those original ghost stories with the original site. So they didn't continue after the building. It was an ex-hotel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because all the stories went from the original building and moved to The
So
newer
not just
hotel.
some of them, but all of them, which is
Yes.
and added new ones like the cellar, because you said there was no Smuggler's Tunnel. So these are new stories
Yes.
have added to it. But for the last 5 years, it's been derelict. It
Yeah.
sounds it's a sad ending to what could have been a great location, a great building. I mean, looking at it, looking at the pictures of it, it's amazing, and we'll put some on the video version or on the website just to show what the place looks like now,
It
or
does
looked
look
like
cool.
before the
And
fire.
when you go into Great Yarmouth past that, and even going back to my childhood, you every time you went past that building, you'd go, "Wow, that looks
Yeah,
like a cool, interesting building. I want to go and look there."
yeah, it does. It just stands out in that street, the parade of shops or whatever the buildings. It really stands
Yes,
out. It's Yeah, it looks lovely. I mean, the good thing is it's a Grade 2 listed. The council considering its future. Hopefully they won't knock it down, even though
yes,
it's been left to rot. Because I know that I just said it last time it's exchanged hands. It sold for £1,000. This is after the fire, I think. Always the trouble. It's like there's an amazing theatre in Plymouth which is derelict. You could probably take it from the owners, but it would cost millions to fix up
yes.
to make it. So it's all well and good thinking, oh yeah, I'd love to have that and rebuild it, but it would cost millions. You'd have to be a serious business or a serious investor to bring those things back. And I don't think for hotels, there's too many chains of hotels now. No one's going to bring it back to make it into just a hotel.
And especially in that area where you've also got all of the various holiday camps in the area where
Yeah,
people can stay. It's and you've got in Great Yarmouth, like that one's sort of the other side of the town to the beach, and you've got the whole parade of hotels along the actual seafront. So
yeah.
if you were going to stay there, you would probably choose one of the seafront hotels rather than the one that looks over the river.
Hmm. And this, but unless you did what we're saying, which is you carry on these stories, you make more ghost stories, you get the urban legends, you get more people to hear whispers as they walk past it and suddenly start seeing lights inside it. You start building up this story, and then you can fix the hotel up, knowing you can sell tickets or sell rooms for vastly overinflated prices to be part of that feeling. Theme it. Get the people who did the Jamaica Inn. Get them to take it over, make it into the most haunted building in Great Yarmouth.
Well, according to modern stories and modern tourism stories, the Elizabethan House Museum is the most haunted. However, the most haunted stories of the Elizabethan house have only been in the last few years since they've started doing events where you can go there and stay the night and
Yep.
visit some ghosts and see the ghosts overnight. Now, prior to this, the Elizabethan House Museum had very few stories to it. So it would be interesting to know what these stories are. So maybe we need to go to
Yeah.
Great Yarmouth and
Yeah. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Especially, again, what if they have actually engineered experiences for people?
yes,
It's all possible. Again, I don't know how much they charge to go on it, but it's not cheap to stay overnight at these places. I bet it's not cheap, and it wouldn't cost much to invest in it. And then you've established it. It's going to stay there for its future. It's not. No one's going to allow it to go become derelict to get knocked down because it's haunted, and all these people have got experiences in the last few years. People are paying for it. Ghosts can be really good business.
they can.
Ghosts and hauntings can be really big business. Look at UFOs in Nevada in America, and how that's become huge business. Entire towns set up around aliens and UFOs. It's paranormal, supernatural can just be really good for business. Again,
Well, it's
it's
because
why we're looking at these things in the way we're looking at them, because is it real? Is it made up? Is it just a business plan?
and people don't want to believe in it, but they will happily go and spend
Yep.
fortunes to try and get an experience.
Yep.
Um,
An acquaintance I know who I will try to get him on one day, but he actually became a real ghost investigator because of experience, because of he needed something and he really took it seriously. But he visited so many places with all the equipment and never once never once experienced anything, but he kept going and he kept going, and he's part of the community, and they kept trying. But funny, I think he actually did have an experience, and the actual experience he had was with a whole audience in a theatre when he was making a presentation about it. Something happened,
Oh, that's cool.
and many people experienced it. But I'm not going to say more than that. I want to get him on the show. We can talk about his experiences, and it could be awesome. It could be. We could hear some very interesting things from somebody who actually took this very seriously.
Well, you know who did see a ghost while doing a live performance in front of a live crowd?
Who's that?
Charles Dickens in the episode of Doctor Who.
Ah, of course.
So going back to Charles Dickens in this story.
Well, the guy had a really good imagination. He wrote some really boring stories and some really good stories.
Yes.
But it's great. I mean,
and he wrote David Copperfield whilst in the Star Hotel.
Yeah. Well, did he write all of it in there, or did he just write some of it?
Apparently, he was writing it at the time of being there. So whether he completed the whole book while staying there, or whether he was still working on bits of it, I'm unsure. And
that'd be awesome. I always imagined to be like an artist or an author and be able to actually go off to the seaside and just become creative and start producing artwork, and just by being in a different place. It's just such a lovely idea. And to be a writer and go off and actually be able to write by the sea.
It would be delightful.
Yeah. I love being by the sea.
Now, I've got nothing else to add about the Star Hotel.
Yeah, there's not much really. I'm looking at it, and it's not as haunted as it should be, really.
Because the main story is the Roundhead.
Yeah, which is a great story.
New building is the smuggler ghosts in the tunnels.
Yeah, and there is one, just the same one every other old building has, about basically the phantom guests, basically the staff here in the sea, somebody walking around the hallways, opening, closing doors, and then just knocking on doors and disappearing. But yeah, that's just kids.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not really. I wouldn't get too excited about that one.
Oh. So
it needs
guess
more. If we're going to open it up as a business, we need more ghosts there.
Yes, we'll call it the Star Hotel, sponsored by the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators.
That's it. Do you know what I would do? I would actually say that the plague, mass grave after the plague victims was on the basement. That's what I would sell it as. There were 7,000 bodies buried here. The whole of Great Yarmouth were buried in the basement of this very hotel.
Spooky. And
we've now built a swimming pool there. Who's going to go swimming in the haunted swimming pool? Only £75 an hour. Yeah, it's yeah. So tell me, please. You do have more stories around Great Yarmouth, yeah?
I've got several stories around Great Yarmouth, and yes, and it would be lovely if I can get a guest that I would love to get on the podcast to talk about their late husband, who was the person that inspired me on Ghosts. But we'll have to do some chatting and see what we can arrange there. Yeah,
I think as long as we prove we take this as a very serious subject and don't ridicule anybody or anything, then they're pretty very likely to do it.
Yes.
So we've got to go back and re-record everything we've done.
Oh dear. Right, I think that's a good point. Good point to round this episode off. Talk about Great Yarmouth and the Star Hotel, and we'll revisit Great Yarmouth in later episodes. Talk about more ghosts about Great Yarmouth. I've got several
really
stories.
To actually meet up and actually spend some time in Great Yarmouth, and maybe there is somebody else who's taken over the mantle for ghost stories in Great Yarmouth. I would love to go on a guided ghost tour, or put a sheet on and just run around the town and say it's a ghost walk. One or the other.
Well, we have been the Boo-Foons. Thank you so much for joining us this week, talking about the Star Hotel in Great Yarmouth. If you aren't following us already on the socials, do give us a follow. We're Boo-Foons on pretty much every social media platform you can think of. And as always, if you feel generous, have a look at the Patreon. We've got loads of exclusive content, including some videos of us doing these recordings, and bits that might not actually be in the actual episode itself that you're listening to, including other bits and pieces. But I've been Dan.
And I've been Steve.
And Until next week, keep being spooky.
I like that. Keep things spooky. Yes. It's mystery.
Mystery.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Boo-Foons, mystery investigators.